The way that we know that particulate pollution affects human health is when you breathe it in, it bypasses all of your natural defenses and can enter your bloodstream, and it sets off an inflammatory response that will have different levels of severity based on your underlying health conditions. But particulate pollution, its health impact is very linear with concentration. So the more particulate pollution you have in the air, the more health impacts you're going to see, and the wider base of population that's going to be affected. So what you're going to be seeing from an inflammatory reactions going on inside your body, you're going to be having reduced lung function. That's likely going to be impacting everyone. It doesn't matter if you're healthy in the prime of life. The levels of pollution we're seeing by these fires is high enough that you're likely to be seeing reduced lung function across the population. There's going to be increased risk of heart attack and stroke for folks who have had a stroke in the past or have underlying heart conditions. Anyone with COPD or other lung disease is likely going to have a real difficulty getting a good breath of air, wheeziness, coughing, general misery, and should be definitely taking steps to protect themselves from the smoke. When you get to smoke that is this thick, it is unhealthy for everyone. There's also a really large concern for children whose young lungs are still developing, and you are throwing a lot of pollution into those young lungs right now in Seeley Lake and in Superior and in the Quartz Creek area, where you're seeing air quality regularly reaching hazardous levels. We haven't really seen this in Missoula County for this prolonged period. So it's kind of a new situation for, I think, the whole community. But folks in Seeley Lake are being exposed to really terrible levels of air pollution right now. And one of the best things that folks can do is get away from the smoke. Just get out if you can.
Now, without trying to sound too terribly clinical, in the years to come, will what's happening in Superior and Seeley Lake be a bit of a science experiment for folks who collect data to say, this is what can happen when a wildfire is close to a community?
You know, I'm not entirely sure that there's going to be a large enough sample size to find that kind of information. Typically, when you're doing that kind of study, you need to have a pretty large population base, so they were able to do that, I think, in California with the Rim Fire, and some studies in British Columbia because of the massive amounts of smoke they've had there. Certainly, for local folks, I think this will be an experience for understanding in our communities, for folks to really see when they need to leave a smoky area. I know that in other areas with smoke that's been reaching these levels, they are seeing an increase in emergency calls, increase of people going into the emergency room, needing to be taken by ambulance, and needing medical treatment. And those folks seem to self-evacuate the following years when they see more smoke again because they've learned that they need to get out of it. But there is real concern in Seeley Lake about the fact that we may be heading towards seeing folks needing those emergency services and needing really quick treatment. And Seeley only has the one health clinic. It's not open on the weekends. And the fire station, they have ambulances and they have great EMS folks, but there's concern about being swamped and not being able to respond appropriately and as effectively as they would like. So folks need to be taking measures to protect themselves from the smoke, either by getting a HEPA air filter in the room and creating as clean a space as possible in their homes, or again, finding somewhere else to go. There is a shelter, a pre-evacuation shelter, is in the Potomac Valley that has some better air, but we really do recommend people avoid breathing the smoke that's in Seeley Lake right now because it is tremendously awful.
Let me ask you this. If a person was able to leave the area and get into a place that wasn't so badly affected, would they recover fairly quickly, or would those effects stay with them?
Typically, people will recover. There is a lag period where you still will see some effects for a short period of time after exposure to particulate pollution from exposure to the wildfire smoke. But there is then recovery. This is a for all intents and purposes, basically an acute exposure. It's a short term, and there should be pretty good recovery for most people. But the reactions that could happen while the smoke is here are really severe. And so while there's the likelihood of pretty good recovery down the line, there's still some significant danger of what could happen to folks that are breathing at the moment.